Well, I'm Grace Mishler. I've been in Vietnam uh, since 2000. For me, I'm a person with disabilities. I have low vision, retinitis pigmentosa. I use a cane. I'm notorious for the cane. And I have central vision, so I can see you. Well, I'm Grace Mishler. I've been in Vietnam uh, since 2000. For me, I'm a person with disabilities. I have low vision, retinitis pigmentosa. I use a cane. I'm notorious for the cane. And I have central vision, so I can see you. Anything that it can be a little improvement makes you happy. So one of the things that Dr. Pham, and what I appreciate her, she was a good coach. She knew, like, for instance, um, I arrived, I was called by National Vietnam University of Social Sciences and Humanities and Dinh Thien Hoang. They had a need for a master's degree in social work. And at that time, they wanted me to come and teach English social work. And they saw in the near future that the emergence of possibly social work. And so they needed somebody here to help them understand social work better. So that was my mission when I came. Little did I know that soon I was getting pressure to do a project. And I got out in the real world, you might say, community, and started to engage in a volunteer initiative. It was with Pearl Buck Foundation and with the Ministry of Education. And it was in regards to inclusive education, main streeting disabled persons into uh, regular classroom. So I went out to Cu Chi. That was kind of a significant thing because that was the first time they allowed, like, Americans to come. And I was with a group of 12 volunteers. They were Vietnamese. And I got to know like the disabled people. And see, for me, I'm a person with disabilities. I have low vision. I use a cane. I'm notorious for the cane. And I have central vision, so I can see you. Little did I know that I would be involved in the grassroots disability movement in Vietnam, and that was way back in 2000. And they wanted me to do a class at the university, a project, and so we implemented social awareness of people with disabilities, field social work field practice. First time ever in the Vietnam, and I had 169 third-year sociology students. Now, how do you do that?
I don't know.
Field practice. So you just like, what's so amazing about Vietnam is we were able to mobilize massively a group of 17 resource leaders out in the community that I knew. You know, and I had somebody that told me, this person would be good. So we go to Miss Noy. That's the person who knew about hearing impaired. You know, Miss Coy with the people with mentally handicapped. Then we knew where the blind leaders was, like Nguyen Quoc Pham, Trom Bat Tin. We just able to get the students out into the community and learn about it. And through that implementation, it really, I was inspired by how quickly Vietnam, you know, the students assembled a field practicum. And we even had, went out into the zoo, and they learned how to do blind training. We had somebody teach them how to do blind training and put them out to, you know, all that. So that experience really offered me as a social worker all the resources as to what's going on. And then out of that experience, I started to get involved in hearing. We had about 20 students, that persons with disabilities, attend in our university. And so we set up a student support services, and peer, you know, the Student Youth Union became involved. So that activity made me more aware of what the needs are, because there was no infrastructure to provide for that at the university. You know, like in the Western world, we have student support services. You know, and it's an office area, and you have people that are trained to do it, and you link up the teachers, and you set up a place where students maybe can go take their test, but that wasn't available. Then it was in 2012 where I started to realize that there's a lot of blind students attending the university. And I asked Tai Sao. Tai Sao means why? Why would that be? You know, and what was going on is there was a disabilities law that was being, the National Assembly here in Vietnam implemented. It was to be implemented, the law. And it was a good law. The only thing is it lacked the infrastructures to implement that law. So I did individual cases and tried to find out what's going on with the students. And then with that experience with the students, you learn what their needs are and what priorities. I could make better grades if I had access to the textbooks. But to get that to happen, you had to call Samai out in the community, which is a blind school place that does the scanning. So how can you make that time, you know, the valuable time, get the books done, and then bring it to the university so that they could have access to that material before they take the test. So that was one of the things that inspired me. When I learned about Dr. Pham, I came here in 2000 because I was needing prescription glasses, and I go, where in Vietnam can I get prescription glasses? So I met with her and learned to know her, and through that relationship, then I was telling her about the cases that I had at the university and the need for a low vision place. So in that relationship, then I started to, you know, I was, it was in maybe 2014. By 2014, students were sharing with me when I was visiting a blind school, I got eye pain. And I've gone to doctors and they don't help my eye pain. So what do you do? So I decided that I had Richard Fuller. He's an expat person here, and he says, "Hey, Grace, I will help support the first 13 students to come and see Dr. Pham."
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like some of them didn't know what their eye problem was and had no information. And they says, at one time I used to see, and now I'm blind. My mom and dad couldn't bring me for treatment. I didn't know where to go for treatment, and we were poor, and so we couldn't have it taken care of. So I brought him here to Dr. Pham, and so like one person had problems, and it was just simply eye drops.
Wow.
Making sure you take eye drops, and then their pain didn't happen. Another one, when he had his glasses off, it was kind of sunken, his eyes was, and we were able to get glasses to have him put it on, and it brought the sunken eyes out to where it didn't look, when you looked at him, it looked better, you know what I mean? Another case, we had glasses. They needed some glasses. They still had low vision. However, with glasses, it helped a little bit. And I know from my own self, anything that it can be a little improvement makes you happy. Another one wanted to know, well, when I have a baby, will my child have the same thing? Okay. Well, pretty soon, the blind school, they called the headmaster, Grace. We have students that are having eye pain, and can they come? And so we did that. And there was one student was waiting 3 years to have a cornea transplant. And Dr. Pham examined his cornea, and says, he could be a successful candidate for cornea. But there was a cost factor. So little did I know, in the United States, they were having it was a summer Bible school where the kids were learning the Bible, and they raised funds. It was $1,700 for it, and here the cost was $1,500, done in Hanoi, thanks to Dr. Dong. And he went up there, did the operation, and he got a tissue from the United States, and the young lad now he's 22 years old now, he can see 20/20. He has glasses because he has a little bit of stigmatism.
Yeah.
But that was really a revolutionary idea, and it worked. Okay, so I worked at the university to see what the infrastructures that we could do to support 13 blind students attending National Vietnam University. 33 was over at the podology school. So there was a lineup of blind students coming in because of the law, and so what do you do? So we were able to get the blind community who had the expertise interface with university, and we started to have meetings, to try to do that.
So within that, what is kind of the role of the partnership with American Eye Center? Is that
Okay, she was the place, the hub, that I would bring the students to for the eye care problems. Okay, then in 2005, there was an emergency letter come in from Dr. Pham. And I want to step back a second. One of the things I used on case studies as case management services. It's a new phenomenon here in Vietnam, but it's tracking each individual. What is it that they need that could improve their grades? That was it at the university. Okay, and so out of that experience, Dr. Pham wrote me a letter, says, Grace, 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 we got a problem. Baby Hoa. She is 7 months old. In 10 days, she's going to go blind. and she needs surgery. And at that time, the cost was high because the public hospitals today are not equipped with the competency to do the surgeries, nor have the equipment. And so it has to be done at the French hospital. And that ups the price. And so you have this family dealing with it. So behind the scenes, she was asking if we knew donors, because I was at that time, working with how can you help people to have that experience. So there was a group of people here in District 7, Canadian school, who raised funds, and she was able to have the surgery. And then, of course, the news got around. Especially like the people who might be wealthy can afford it, but the poor people that are coming, the kid's going to be blind. Period. Because it's called retinal pathology of premature babies. These are babies that, because right now in Vietnam, the mortality rate of the babies are going down. But they have heart, lung, and eye problems. And some baby, if it's very low, you must see an ophthalmologist and get yourself, examine your child. There is hope if you get it early that you don't have to have the surgery. However, you got to do that. So pretty soon we got pressure, many families finding out and they needed help. And what do you do? So Dr. Pham knew those problems. And we were wanting to cut the cost. What can we do? And so she introduced me, Dr. Pham did, to Children's Hospital 1, the eye unit. And I had a meeting with the administrator in October 2015. Now today, we've implemented the past year, we call it ROPE Vietnam. That's retinal pathology of prematurity. And we were able to have like 30 surgeries. Got it low cost, 50% off. But we're working with that hospital to be the place where, we have, where there could be in the future a surgical floor. Right now, the big thing is out in the rural areas, because these are rural poor families that when we hear, we try to get them early enough to avoid the surgery. Because see, if you have surgery and you have a child that's premature and has rope, that child, if it goes through surgery, is going to have to wear a contact lens, most likely. Now imagine, a contact lens for a baby, they could flip it out. So now we have to find ways, where in Vietnam can we get these glasses to strap around and wear them? And so there's problems because parents who are poor and you lose the glasses, and the baby needs that for the eye to develop. And then after that, you have your glasses, then you have to get the silicone oil taken out. And then when they get to be maybe 6, 7, whenever the eye's fully developed, then they have to put a permanent lens into the eyes. Yeah, they can't do it right away, which would be nice if they could, but they cannot, because the eye's not developed. So one of the things that Dr. Pham, and what I appreciate her, she was a good coach. She knew, like, for instance, when we needed to have human capacity training for case management, we had a foundation, a businessman who saw Dr. Pham, and so his foundation, was Murray Foundation, helped to support for us to have a year, somebody to be a protege for me. One thing that I see that, and I've done some research on the web. We're the only one in Vietnam among the eye care people that are working with rope that is using that method. It is an innovative model because when you have many cases that you're monitoring, because see, sometimes you'll have somebody do rope surgery in Vietnam among the doctors, and if they say, oh, the doctors are going to be taking care, they can't manage that because their caseloads are too heavy. And so now we see that we need somebody that helps to make sure that they can get in. Transportation's a factor. So we have small monies that help with the transportation. Now, we aren't going to accept when we smell a thing where is somebody who has it. No, we get the ones that really are. And we know the regions where they're at. So had it not been for Dr. Pham, who directed me to the Children's Eye Hospital, we wouldn't be able to help Children's Eye Hospital advance. You know, because now they're getting, you know, soon, thanks to the business sectors, who are, you know, we have a RET cam. A RET cam is like taking photo imaging of the baby's retina. And that helps so much because then you know exactly. You spend a lot of time looking. I believe it's in zone 1, zone 2, or stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. And if it's stage 4, is it stage 3 or is it stage 4? You got to get the accuracy.
Yeah.
So getting those type of tools, yeah.
So that's what it seems like partnership here, and it involves so many different people and different collaborations, and everybody kind of one thing helps another, which leads to another, and it's really a collaborative effort.
Right. Like for instance, right now it's exciting because we saw what region had a lot of problems, and we were able to take the medical team there, plus our social work team, meet with them, and they are now helping to say, they had said they had the problem. They knew they had it, and they need help. So they're sending people down to where we're at to get that type of training. And so I think for me, what I appreciate was that Dr. Pham knew my work with the case management. Normally, we don't see in the eye unit the necessity for a social worker to do it. But when we're dealing with babies, and you're dealing with people who need to be compliant, and the stories we'd heard before for the students at the university, Miss Grace, at one time, I could see, but now I lost it. My parents didn't have money, didn't have the transportation. So we're addressing those voices of that learning experience helped us to know for that family to be successful. You know, so I can't, I just appreciate, you know, like I learned case management a long time ago in America. I mean, I know what you got to do. You got to keep track of the people and the importance of the compliance, you know, because you know the outcome results is if they can get the more access to lens, get more access to glasses, you know, they're going to do better. I think what I'd want to encourage on eye foundations, when you're doing a massive thing of cataract surgery, massive things in regards to other refractive lens, you need to be able to keep tracking those folks. Just giving glasses one time, you know, it could break, and then they'll go to someone, but do they know, is it quality?
So really imagine, obviously it takes the individual case social worker, but the whole network of everybody involved to help that progress continue.
Right.
So I guess looking forward, what kind of goals or maybe plans do you have to continue all the immense achievements you've had?
One thing is sustainability. You know, too often I've seen NGOs and other ones. Once you run out of money, once you have it's done, where's the follow-up? You know, and I think for myself right now is that I want to make sure that we have the human capacity. We need funds, you know, to do that. I appreciate what Dr. Pham, when she sees a business person, because I've been invited. Also, she directed me to another businessman who really admires the work that I'm doing. So I think the part that I like is how can the business people be socially responsible, you know, in their work, and have that, the business is important, but also that compassionate heart and giving it back to the society, you know. And I think for me, just being able to see that we can't expect the government to be doing it all the time, you know, and that if the business can take some of the leadership, you know, and I've seen that, I witnessed that being at the Children's Hospital 1, you know, where you know, you just have to have that voice, you know. And little did I know, when Dr. Pham had directed me to the Children's Eye Hospital, that really captured the well, you have to have also the staff. The staff is important. You know, you have to have people that see that vision too, and want to have the best practice and quality. And then you start from there. You go small. If you get too big, you know, it's not good. You start small.
Yeah.
Do well.
Yeah. So that's kind of one of the things you have to keep as you're working forward, making sure that mentality remains there.
Right. And I think the one thing that I see that I've learned out of this, there is a great need of knowing what really is social work about, and the social work case management. Students need to be able to have a place that they can go to practice their social work, but they need to know who is really doing social work. Or see, sometimes they think it's charity, you know, but it's a professional skill, just like a skill of a nurse, just like a skill of a doctor, just like a skill of a business person.
Yeah.
You got to have that particular skill. What makes social work different than a psychologist? What makes difference than a nurse? You know, what is the social work about? And I think that it's not totally understood, but there is remnants. There are definitely people who do. You know, I had an agency, a foundation say, hey, where can we find 10 social workers? Well, you know, I think you have to find who really understands social work and do that. And it's there, but you got to find each other. And just recently, I've been able to find those people that have that same vision, and how we can then build the capacity, you know, and all that.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. And so now that you've done kind of so much in a different little operations and achievements, what for you personally has been the most gratifying? Or what have you been most proud that you and the extended team has been able to do?
It's the teamship, being a team. We need the doctors, we need the nurses, we need the families, we need the social workers, we need all these people coming together, and it's teamwork. And it's not just one person. You all, because when you do that, then it helps to create a change. And and one thing as a social worker, we're considered change agents, agents of change, and the value of the human dignity, the respect, the self-worth is very important, And I think one thing that it's being able to not be above the families and the superior type of thing, but you struggle together, and how are you going to resolve it? And I think that's the part that's been really inspiring, to see how can people become empowered to do their work.
Yeah, it's really neat. I guess just kind of as a last question or something, is there anything that you want people to know about your work or the situation for eye treatment and disability here, or American Eye Center, or kind of any last words that you want to make sure to share with people?
Yeah, I think it's important. Students are important to me in Vietnam, and that I think they need to become informed. They're going to be parents. They're going to have cousins, relatives, friends who are not informed. We need to have Vietnam needs to go more and more on media to get the news out about rope, and the problems, and how do we go about solving it. I think the other thing is being able to know how do you funds are going to be needed, and where can you know that your funds are going to be done. I mean, are going to be used effectively. I think for me, like Rope Vietnam is a place, if we have a Facebook, we have 2 social workers. Well, one thing, we have a young 26-year-old.
Oh, wow.
She works as a medical social worker.
Wow.
Medical social worker in the eye unit at the Children's Eye Hospital. And then my project manager, she's had other projects that she's managed. And I think the part that I see is that we could, yes, we could use funds, for right now. I think it's important to invest money for human power to do that work. Yes, equipment's going to be important too, but if you don't have the human power to do it, then if they can't get paid.
And we're talking about the doctors and nurses and social?
Well, invest in the doctors and nurses more too, because then they'll be focused more. There's a dire need of like, for instance, in a unit, there might be 120 babies, and you have 6 nurses and like 2 doctors or whatever. That's 20 babies, rah, crying.
Yeah.
That's a lot of expectation.
That's a lot of babies.
Yeah. So I see that need of the nurses for how do you case manage. Each it's take an individual, and then you have the group. Did that answer that?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great. Getting a better sense for what you're doing and challenges and reasons for optimism, and how American Eye Center and Dr. Pham especially is helped.
Right, and and if people want to say, how can I invest? They contact American Eye Center, Dr. Pham. There's an account that they have, here that I've had with the student account. We could have for the rope. that they can give them that. And she knows that we need social work case managers. And I think that's one thing that I would like to see is that we help to train social work case managers. Not it could be in hospitals to do the work, but it can go in psychiatric centers in Vietnam need it. Or the case management in prison system where the person's going out and then you need somebody to manage their daily activities to make sure that they're doing their offense again. That I think could be really helpful for Vietnam.
Yeah. And that's what you have to raise awareness, I guess, and just try and get as much attention as you can for it.
Right. So I would say that, if there's anything that comes out of this and people want to know how can they help and contribute, I'm sure that with what I'm working on, with the rope, because that is something that she pointed me to work on, because it was a big problem we were having, and we have to get them back to the public hospital to do the work. Private hospitals too expensive,
Right.
We have to.
So none of the rope cases that you help with are actually performed here.
No,
Treatments, right?
no, not here at the American Eye Center, but over the French hospital, and then there's a doctor who's a foreigner, Dr. JD, so I would say that if it's okay with Dr. Pham, and if people want to know how they can help, they can do that.
Yeah.
Or they can go to the French hospital and say, I want to help contribute there for the rope babies. These are the premature babies, and they're for the poor.
Yeah. It's important work.
Yeah.
It's great to hear about it, how you do it, and about all the other people that are involved in collectively addressing it.
I think that's what brings me happiness, because what I really missed about in America, I worked with a team. It was a psychiatric team, and with nurses, doctors, psychologists, and we all worked together. And now I'm doing that here in Vietnam, and that makes me happy.
Yeah.
And I love my eye unit that I work at.
Yeah. I think we'll
So I'm grateful
wrap it
to
up.
I'm so grateful then with Dr. Nam Tram that
yeah.
that she pointed me. At first, when I first had that, I go, oh man, what am I getting myself into? I go, But when I got into the team approach, that's
Yeah.
kept me there.
Yeah. Because it would be, I would imagine, overwhelming, and you'd get burnt out if you had to do it all on your own.
Yes.
But
Okay.
thank you so much.